introducing our teachers, speakers from our English program. Sorry, I just copy paste the Chinese version of this poster. So maybe you can read, maybe you cannot. But let me do a real quick introduction. We have Matt. Matt is right now on the screen. As you can see, he's our program manager. He's in charge of the English program. We have Janelle. Janelle has been with us for more than 5 years. She's very experienced, very popular among the students, and she will be talking right after me. And we have Dr. Hamada. He graduated from the university from UK with his PhD degree in English literature. He teaches at Linky mainly focusing on writing. So he teaches three classes, three courses, grade 7 to 8 writing, grade 9 to 10 writing, and also the persuasive and synthesis writing. We have Adriana. I don't think she can be with us tonight because she has a class to teach, but she will be sharing a pre-recorded video, I believe. We also have Beatrix. Um, she's a York School Board teacher, and she mainly teaches in our Markham campus. We also have Kim Spark. She's a professor at the University TMU, and she will be here talking about the writing contest. All right, so without further ado, so let me pass the podium to Janelle. Janelle, do you want to share from your side? You're
Yes,
muted.
I will. Okay, so hello there, everyone. Hope we are staying warm and we are no longer snowed in because these last couple of days have been really something. Okay, I'm just gonna get my screen up here. Okay, so continuing on. Okay. All right, so my name is Janelle Graham, or Miss J, as my students call me. And I will be talking to you a little bit about English in general, because tonight you're going to be hearing a lot of the technicalities and the different books that we go through and our structure and format. And so I'm going to start out a little bit broad and then we will work our way in. So this is me on the field, the front campus at the University of Toronto, where I graduated. And I have been teaching here for this, in a month, it will be exactly 6 years since I've been here. And something about me is that I really enjoy reading and writing, AKA communicating. And I really have U of T to thank for that. So, to step back from English as just another subject to excel at in school, I want to talk about it as an extremely important communication tool. So, the ability to transport knowledge through space and time doesn't exist without language, right? The main way that we acquire information is through all the text that we read and our ability to write and communicate. And this is how also how we are educated. And yes, we know this, but I do think that every now and then it's always nice to get that gentle reminder, because at the end of the day, we are all on the same page where you want your children or our students, also our students, to excel, not just in grade school, right, from elementary to secondary school, not just in university, but in the real world, as we call it, right, and in career and in life. And communicating well is an extremely important aspect of that. Because I know that you know adults who, where you have a conversation with them and you think, my child is able to communicate better than you are able to communicate with me right now. And that's not because of a language barrier, right? But the way that you articulate yourself, again, younger kids are learning the fundamental skills in school to do that. So I have found that the most articulate students are the ones who are well read. And this also includes audiobooks. Okay, so not just opening the book and reading, but if you are more of an auditory learner, audiobooks do the exact same thing. Okay, and so regardless of the discipline that you're in or you're going into, engineering, mathematics, science, English is needed across the board, okay? And so for reading comprehension, for example, whether it is a poem, a novel, or an email that you're reading, or scientific piece of literature, you need to be able to understand what you are reading, right? And that comes from practice. So you building up the skills to extract that information and know what is being said so you can then communicate it back out through writing, like writing an essay to show your teacher that you understand the material, or writing a university application to show that university all the reasons why they would be making a mistake to not accept you, or writing an email, right? Writing that report. And so understanding the information, reading, being able to read in between the lines, building those skills to do that is what we practice here. Okay, we really believe in going deep and breaking down the text so that students are able to learn one about others, but also about themselves, but also about how to like fully integrate themselves in this world. Okay. And the last bit here for some of the spring semester texts that we're going to be going through, Shakespeare, who is known as what like the greatest playwright to ever exist, will be the primary focus for us. So for the middle school to high school level, we have a lot of Shakespeare. So some that we have, Romeo and Juliet, we've got Hamlet, we've got Midsummer's Night Dream, we've got Twelfth Night. And I do want to stress here too that even if you know that your child, or if you are a student here watching, have already read those texts in school, this is also a benefit to you. So of course, it's always great when you come to our class and this is the first time that you are being exposed to this text, especially with Shakespeare, where we know that it's most likely going to be taught in school because of all the information that you can get from it. But I also do want to stress that reading a text a second, third, 10th time is also extremely important as it continues to build your knowledge and understanding. Okay, because a lot of even the texts that I have taught, you know, as I prepare for this semester, I will read a poem that I've read 100 times, and the next time I read it again, there's something else that I'm able to take from it because I understand it so well already. Okay. All right, so what I am going to do for the next few minutes is walk you through what a lecture would look like from me. This is from Macbeth. So this is a Shakespearean tragedy with a main character of the same name who is a Scottish nobleman who sees that his ambitions and greed lead to quite a sobering realization about life. Now, this poem is only 10 lines long. And so you might think, oh, well, we'll be able to go through this very quickly. No, we won't. As a matter of fact, I'm only going to go over the first stanza, which is a paragraph or section in a piece of poetry. And we won't actually go through everything here, okay? And through this, I want for you to see what I mean when I say that we go deep in the text to be able to pick it apart, read in between the lines, because a lot of communication is what isn't, is picking up on the nuances and making inferences and understanding what isn't being said. Okay, so what we have here, I'm going to read everything out and then we're going to focus on the first stanza. We have tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to the last syllable of recorded time. And all our yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusty death. Out, out, brief candle. Life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. It is the tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Okay, so the first bit here, and as I go through this in the chat, I actually want you to tell me what you believe the theme is in this piece of poetry, okay? For simplicity, I'm just looking for one word, okay? So we have tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day. Now, there will be times when we may not quite understand some of the words that we see written, which is a really good time for us to do a little bit of research. And sometimes we do know the word, but it might be the case that we know one version of the definition, or it is a word that has changed its definition over the course of time. So, in this case, petty might be a word that we look into, okay? So when we do a little bit of research and we go to Oxford Languages, by Google, we see that petty means of little importance or to be trivial, right? It's something that is not a big deal, right? It's not that serious. So now when we take that information, we can again extrapolate quite a bit from these two lines alone. So tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. What does tomorrow imply? And again, if you want to tell me in the chat, that'd be fantastic. Ooh, okay, we'll talk about this a little bit. So tomorrow implies that it's not here yet, right? And if that's the case, and we see the word petty here, that means that if something is happening tomorrow, we don't need to worry about it now. How many times have we said, ooh, like I need to pay this bill. Oh, I need to send that email. I really need to set aside time to study for this test because I really want to get an A on it, but I don't have enough time today. So I'll put it on the schedule for tomorrow. Well, what you have said, again, without really saying it, again, reading in between the lines, is that if we're going to put it off to tomorrow, it's not urgent or important enough for today. Okay, because if it was important, we would have done it today, or better yet, we wouldn't even be talking about it because it would have already been done, right? It would have been done yesterday. And what's really interesting about Shakespeare is that he manages to include all three of the typical ways we talk about time in this one stanza alone. We have tomorrow, we have today, and we have yesterday. So, and even here too, the day to day, it's not read as, or he doesn't write, creeps in this petty pace day after day, but rather day to day, as though he is saying this day right now, right? Today. So that's a really cool play on words. So again, as we're learning to understand the information, right? Building up those reading comprehension skills, but then also learning to write. We get inspiration from playwrights like him to really articulate ourselves and express ourselves in a way that is creative and shows the possibilities that we have as human beings. And so to this point, in the chat here, the impression is that Shakespeare is no longer taught in high school. It really does depend on the district, so and availability. So there are some schools where it is still being taught because it is so it's deeply embedded in our culture. So there are a lot of references made to Shakespeare on a regular basis. It is also said that he came up with about 10% of the English language, like the idea of the bedroom was allegedly created or made up from Shakespeare, right? So there is that aspect, but also I would say that because it is so popular or so deeply embedded, it's still very important for kids to understand that that structure because so much of what we understand about the English language and the way we write does come from or is inspired by him. Not to mention a lot of the stories too that are taught in school and taught at a university level, or again, that is referenced, again, even in the real world, it tends to be from Shakespeare. I even had an eighth grade student actually the other day say that one of the Shakespearean plays, Twelfth Night, was taught in her school, and that they watched a movie that was based on the play, right? So it's still very much relevant, even though that might be the case in certain schools.
Yeah.
And even then, it's within certain schools within districts. Anything to add to that?
3 weeks ago, I edited a grade 12's essay on Macbeth, like this exact play. And she goes to White Oaks Secondary School. So very normal school, still absolutely teaching Shakespeare.
Yeah, and I also know too that some schools are, at least for the 11th grade, are moving to more, like indigenous texts, which is really good. But I do still think that Shakespeare is in the bedrock of English literature. Okay, so just want to be mindful of time here. So the last bit that I also want to add to is in another form of repetition, but this now is in the sound, so alliteration. Again, to that point, a lot of the literary devices that are taught in school can be extrapolated and found within Shakespeare. So for example, alliteration, very typical literary device that students need to know, we can find right, in this piece of poetry. So we have tomorrow, 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 and then the creeping. So that tick, tick, tick with the sounds of the T and creeping in this very slow, trivial place, very much indicative like a clock. And the way that it seems like the clock is not rushing, isn't going anywhere, and is just slowly ticking along minding its own business, while at the same time also feeling like it moves so quickly because here we see tomorrow, we see today, and we see yesterday. And then the end with that brief candle, that this candle, it's only lighting for a very short period of time until it's out indefinitely, and there's no more of that. So this is, again, just to give you an example of what we would talk about in lecture, because I do find that when I was in school, I learned Macbeth, but I did not get the same kind of experience that I give my students now, where to go deep in a text is very important. Nowadays, we want to do things very quickly. So for a lot of students, it's, oh, I read the page, that's it, I'm done. When in reality, they're missing crucial components of what's needed to fully understand any form of text, right? Not just not just for English class, but again across the board. Because like I said, it's needed for every single discipline, right? So that is just a brief breakdown, a little bit of insight into how I teach and what we will be getting up to this semester. All right, thank you everybody. And Henry, I will pass it on to you now. No, stop sharing screen.
All right, Janelle, thank you so much. I know we have two wonderful teachers are already here. We have Dr. Hamada. We also have, I believe, Beatrix is here as well. So let me go real quick. I want to go real quick. I know uh, many people here, they don't want to hear from me. They want to hear from our teachers. So maybe Dr. Hamada, do you want to talk first, since you're already here?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Henry. Appreciate it. Uh,
Go for it.
yeah. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We're really excited just to have you and to walk you through our courses at Linky. Can I share the slides from my end here?
Yeah,
Okay,
for sure.
I'll go
You're
ahead.
the co-host.
Thank you. All right. So, I'm going to start to take the opportunity actually by introducing myself, say a little bit about my background, my academic profile actually. I hold master's and PhD degrees in literature from the University of Essex, UK. And when I came
Hamada, hit the
yeah,
slideshow button for us, please, in the top right corner.
do you see it?
Yeah, up in the top right, it says slideshow.
Just press the slideshow.
Oh, okay. Slideshow. Here we go.
Yeah, get it. There you go.
Great. Awesome. Yeah. So, I actually joined Linky in 2019, just maybe 6 weeks or 7 weeks before the pandemic hit. Yeah. So it was great to see Henry and my colleagues in person before we went virtual for a couple of years, right? But it has been an amazing journey for me, actually, a great chapter since I landed as a permanent resident. I'm a proud Canadian citizen now, and yesterday, while I was
Congratulations.
preparing for the presentation, I was just counting how many sessions of the academic writing program actually, which is here, how many sessions we run, and I was surprised that there have been something like 30 plus courses every single academic term or semester, which is fantastic, including summers, of course. So, yeah, because I believe that education is a lifelong process, I went on to and engaged some certification here. And I got a certificate from Peel District School Board, which is the ACE TESOL program certificate. It is teaching of English for students of other language. And beyond that, I got 2 professional certificates from TESOL Canada Federation, teaching of English as a second language. And I'm so proud of those things. They helped me a lot actually in creating the courses at Linky, of course, in collaboration with my colleagues and the amazing support of our director as well. So my area of expertise is American literature, especially like Mark Twain and the literature of the American South and the Civil War. I got published. I published my doctoral dissertation and something like 7 or 8 peer-reviewed journal articles, and that earned me an honorary research and residence fellowship at Mark Twain House and Museum in Elmira, New York. So just a brief introduction of the enticing academic writing program we established in 2019, actually. It falls in 3 stages. It consists of 3 stages mainly. I call them stage 1, 2, and 3 for students. And the first course is writing grade 7, 8. The second one is writing grade 9, 10. And the third one, the combination of this, let me say, program is writing persuasive and synthesis essay course. I need just to brief you on the content of each one so that you can see the sense of continuity I try to establish and how I take my amazing learners actually from the beginning of, let me say, middle school until the end of their high school, actually, get them ready for their university degrees, studies, as well as the future. We believe in something at Linky, which is effective communication is what the world needs right now. Yeah, the world maybe does not need geniuses anymore. We need people who can team play, who can communicate, who can just, deliver and, just establish their presence within, let me say, a team. So we focus on this a lot. Besides our focus on critical thinking, analytical skills, we try to focus on literary and non-literary texts, actually, in our dissemination of knowledge. So in writing grade 7, 8, I try to get students 1 or 2 years ahead of the normal school, actually, in terms of getting to know their common mistakes, the errors that are costing them grades, mastering the creation of those short structures like simple, compound, complex sentences, the passive voice as a trademark of academic writing, how they can elevate their academic tone, for example. I get them through a variety of, let me say, grammar, advanced grammar, and academic writing skills based, like, for example, on SAT and something that is tailored to their young age, actually. Besides the focus on advanced grammar and structures, writing structure, I try to focus on literary analysis through the study of short stories. I have a collection of 20 absorbing short stories that I run over the 16 classes we have every course. And the students always end the course by saying that short stories were an amazing addition to the writing program because we managed to blend things together, right? The knowledge of the sentence structures as well as the critical thinking, literary analysis, they draw from, let me say, reading short stories and reflecting on them in collective, analyses. So yeah, that's if you want to talk about stage 1, it's short structures. I conclude the course with something I wrote for university as part of my research. It is 50 different methods of starting sentences in English. I try to navigate different, let me say, readings and books and chapters, trying to get a list of the most commonly used starters for sentences. And students end up telling me, we printed out that document you shared with us and we use it all the time, and our teachers at school always celebrate our achievements. And I've always seen students come back to me saying that we've seen a better average actually because of the information we draw from the course. So that is a fantastic thing. That makes our day actually. Now, stage 2 is grade 10, 9, 10 actually. Here, we go beyond, let me say, short structures. We focus on a variety of rhetorical modes, like persuasion, compare and contrast, process, narration, persuasion, argumentation. But here the focus is on paragraph writing mainly. We do have essay writing because, students in grade 9, 10 are expected to write essays. So the focus, the bulk of the course focuses on different types of paragraphing, dealing with sources in terms of synthesizing, how we can paraphrase, summarize, and quote in terms of using different citation styles, MLA for literature, APA for social science. So I try to get students ready for not only the end of high school, but also for university. APA citation style is something that public schools do not teach. They need it badly at university. So beyond the focus on, let me say, paragraph writing, there are more advanced grammar skills actually they need to know. And I try to up the game actually in this second stage. Now, the third stage, is where the students try to, let me say, apply the knowledge they gained from the first two stages. And they try to write, let me say, different essays. Of course, we go through different types of essay introductions, different types of paragraphing again, writing counter arguments and rebuttals, dealing with the sources so that they can avoid the risks of plagiarism. I get them to know the difference between intentional and unintentional plagiarism. Even we speak about AI actually, the significance. I try to steer them in the direction like AI is useful in terms of, let me say, getting ideation, but then we have to stop using AI and go to get our own sources and read them and, draw our own notes and our paraphrases and summaries and quotes. Yeah. AI is a reality we cannot escape, but we have, we've got amazing tools at Linky where we can tell students what to do in terms of using it properly without relying on it heavily before the harm is done at school. So this is the program. Actually, it has been an amazing journey for me teaching it, and I've seen students go from stage 1 through stage 3 and just get ready for the end of high school, which is something to do with AP. I teach 2 other courses, which are writing university application essays course. At some point, Henry told me like we have, let me say, students finishing their Linky journey, and we want them just to secure amazing, let me say, admission at prestigious universities. So we want to help them with university application essays. We ended up getting sources from Harvard, 50 successful Harvard application essays, and The Road to Yale. And these 2 amazing books have been just, of great help to me as a teacher. And students have ended up actually producing essays that help them, get admitted at the universities they have been dreaming of actually. So yeah, this is a very beneficial course as well. And the last course I teach is AP English Language and Composition exam preparation. I get students through, let me say, 2 terms every academic year, fall and then spring, all the way until May, where the AP exams, take place. And we have almost something like 30 meetings, 2 hours each. And students happen to, to master the strategies of taking the test in terms of the multiple choice questions and the 3 free responses, which happen to be synthesis essay, then rhetorical analysis, and finally we have the argumentative essay. It's an exam that lasts 3 hours, 15 minutes, but with practice, with the skills, with the strategies, it's doable. And it's something that can get them the credit to reduce the course load at university. So writing 101 is not there when you have a 5 out of 5 in AP actually. So yeah, that shortens the time they spend at university. And of course, it leaves this indelible remark on their consciousness. You see a different personality in terms of debating and casting themselves in society and in professional circles as well. Now, as I mentioned, like there are amazing benefits actually in the short and long run if you decide to take a course with us at Linky. We've seen from my experience myself, like I've seen instantaneous academic progress, development, growth. Students are competing. We were runner-up actually in student writing competition in the middle of the pandemic. One student at Linky was runner-up. I think it was the student editorial essay which was submitted to the New York Times, which was an achievement. So we do have writing competitions, and we're trying just to to enter as many as possible this coming term. We've seen better grades from school as well. That has been a promise for us for some time now. There are also more effective, sharper analytical and critical thinking skills. That's our mission and vision, by the way. And this is where we try just to, let me say, differentiate ourselves from the public school. We try to be 1 or 2 years ahead by instilling the best knowledge we have gained from our education and from our cooperation at the center as well. Yeah, I mean, the ultimate gain would be for students and us as well as educators would be this growth we see materializing and getting the young learners empowered and ready actually for university and their professional career after. So this is everything I would like to share. I really thank you for listening, and I'll pass this back to you, Henry. Thank you.
Sorry, I muted myself.
No worries.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ahmad.
Thank
We
you.
also have Kim Spark, Miss Sparks with us. So Miss Sparks, she teaches, works at TMU, formerly known as Ryerson University. So Miss Sparks, are you ready? So give us some insights.
Sure, happy to. Thanks so much for having me. Matt, I forgot what I put on the other slide, but yeah, I've been writing for 25 years. I did my undergrad at York University. I did a honors bachelor of creative writing and mass communications. From there, I went to the Canadian Film Center, the Norman Jewison Canadian Film Center. I did the television program there. We were actually the only class who got to work with Norman Jewison for a 3-day workshop, which was awesome. I also attended it's the online UCLA professional screenwriting program, and I did my Master's of Fine Arts in Creative Writing at UBC with a focus in screenwriting. My television work has mostly been in children's television. Most of the TV shows that I've worked on have aired here in Canada on YTV and Treehouse, TVO Kids, but also BBC Kids in the UK. I transitioned from kids television to video games, so I still do contract work in the video game space. The last game I worked on, it's sad it's not going to be released, but it was a really good game in a really big universe, and I wish I could tell you more, but there's NDAs. But the game before that I worked on was Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and our writing team was nominated for a Writers Guild of America award for that. We lost to Spider-Man. That's a whole other thing. I get it. It's cool. But yeah, so my career has been both in writing from film and television, video games, podcasts, narrative podcasts. I had a picture book manuscript that made the long list for the Cantscape Canadian Writing Awards last year. So a whole range of types of writing that I have done. And I've been teaching for almost the same amount of time at the post-secondary level, colleges and universities throughout the GTA. I'm pretty sure I've taught at almost all of them now. And I'm currently teaching advanced screenwriting at TMU. And yeah, I don't know what else you'd like me to say.
All right. Yeah, I'll talk here for a bit.
Okay.
I'm really excited to have Kim joining the staff. This is an industry professional. This is a person who writes for money, a person who writes professionally. And I'm a fan of Kim's. Like I've seen your shows. I've played a lot of Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I played your video games. You weren't, was it Ubisoft? Was it Ubisoft who canceled your, oh, was it, can you confirm or deny if it was Prince of Persia?
I cannot confirm or deny that.
Oh,
It was not Ubisoft. It was a larger
oh,
game with a massive universe and many, many characters that we had one character that we were given uh, the opportunity to create sort of the
hmm,
origin story in a game. Yeah.
hmm. That's so exciting. Like this is such an exciting opportunity for students to come in and get creative writing from someone who does this for a living. Like Henry and I have been talking about this for a couple of weeks. Hamada mentioned AI earlier. We don't we don't have time to go into my AI rabbit hole and conversation today, but if the AI people get what they want, if they get the world the way they want it, the only jobs that exist will be creative writing jobs. The only things that will happen for money will be artwork. So I think it's of vital importance to get kids experience in this area, not just to build like the tool of writing, which is obviously something that will be happening, but also to build a bridge to learning how to become a professional storyteller. Everybody on this call is a professional storyteller to some degree or another, right? Hamada and I are certainly doing that all class. Henry's doing this every time he needs to make a deal with somebody or pitch a new tournament or something like that, right? Like this is such an essential skill that we're working on here. So Kim's class is focused around creative writing competitions. Hamada talked a little bit about competitions earlier. Kim wins creative writing competitions. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Sure. I've placed in a lot of screenwriting, like film, television, and some narrative podcast contests. In the last couple of years, I've won two fellowships, um, one in Ireland, and though I'm not allowed to announce till Monday, I did make I did win like placing on a best of list. And so I have a script that is out to an Irish producer right now. Fingers crossed, they've made some pretty good movies. So producers are notoriously long in getting back to you. So yeah, but Matt's correct in saying that storytelling is a huge part of our life. If I'm a scientist and I am up for a grant and I have to present what this grant will be used for, I can talk about data, I can talk about the numbers and the science behind it. But if you add a story element, who is this going to help? Give me an example. It makes it human. And so learning that it's the same in business. All the best business pitches deal with someone who is good at telling stories and sort of bringing it into the personal. So learning how to tell a story, learning how to develop characters, learning beginning, middle, and end, and how to do that succinctly can help in all realms um, from now till forever. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Kim.
Thanks.
Just wanna jump in here really quickly. If I may, let me speak just in 1 minute in Mandarin Chinese. Just really wanna emphasis on this. 我用中文讲一下，就是我们之前应该是有一块missing，就是实际上就是高年级学生的 creative writing。之前我们是有 creative writing，但是更多的是给年龄小一点的孩子哈。5年级啊、6年级。但是其实 creative writing 对每一个年龄段是非常非常重要的。我随便举个例子，你比如说，刚才我们讲大学申请，尤其是每本的文书，我们叫university application essay，这个每本的文书里面，其实最重要的有一个环节，大家可能知道叫 storytelling，就是要讲故事，那个就是非常典型的 creative writing。就刚才Kim 讲了是 storytelling，然后 how to create a story，然后 how to create a character。这个其实讲故事的能力，在很大一个程度上决定了你这个大学的文书最后写出来的质量和效果怎么样啊。所以我们希望能够把这个部分能够补上去，就是整个我们的英语 program 里面，现在我们把最后这个 puzzle 给它放进来。 就是针对高一点年龄的同学的这个 creative writing。所以这个班我们会交给大家现在看到的就是 Kim 老师来教这个班啊。所以这块儿而且我们会把Kim 会把这个 creative writing contest， 就是我们叫创意型写作storytelling 等等，其实我们看到的所有的包括剧本啊这些通通都是在这个范畴里面的。这一类的竞赛类的这种准备，然后帮助孩子们能够更好的去准备这些竞赛，我们会把这个放到我们的这个课程里面来，好吧 ？OK，so let me see is
Yeah, Beatrix.
Beatrix here? Hi, Beatrix. Hi. All right, so I'm going to pass the podium to you, Beatrix.
Henry,
So-
can you hear Beatrix?
Beatrix, can you hear me? We can hear you clearly.
Double check that your microphone's coming off of your headphones and not.
Maybe just a headphone. In the meantime, Kim, do you want to stop sharing your screen?
Oh, that's my screen.
Oh, that's yours. Okay. And then Beatrix, you can share from your side.
I also just quickly wanted to mention that there were,
Sure.
if in our courses, depending on the type of writing that we will be doing, there are a number of contests that are available to students as young as 8 years old. So, and there's one in Canada that's from K to 12 for both short stories and poetry. There's a big one through Scholastic. It's the Alliance for Young Writers and Artists. And they have like 29 different categories, sort of all of the artistic categories, but it's a very prestigious contest. So we would be working towards creating works that we could submit to those contests, and also screenwriting contests, perhaps even working in as a small TV writer's room. You create a television show, everybody writes an episode. Learning how to work together and share ideas is immensely helpful in all realms of life. But, it's sort of that kind of collaborative experience that would work well. So yes, grade 8s I would teach. And I've been mentoring with a group in the US, essentially mentoring young girls in creative writing. So, thanks.
Yeah. I'm very excited for what Kim's going to do in that creative contest writing container, because obviously you want to win, right? You want to submit, you want to win, but you're going to have a large class. There's going to be a lot of kids. It's equally probably more important that they're learning, that they're becoming better writers, right? And I really trust you in the same way that I trust Hamada to run a contest class, because there can be a lot of emotions, there's like a lot of risk when a kid is submitting something, and they need to have a supportive teacher there, especially on something creative, because if you're scared, they'll be able to tell when you're writing, right? You have to write in a way that is fearless. You have to write in a way that is authentic. And then a lot of people are going to tell you no, and it's a hard thing to go through.
It
And
is part of the business.
exactly.
100%.
Right.
For
and
every
that's-
yes, there's like 10 no's.
Right. And that's a very powerful experience to bring to them, because they're at a very fragile age, I would say.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we have Beatrix.
Yep. Can you hear me now?
Perfect. Yes.
Okay, amazing. Let me just share. Okay. Hello, everyone. So my name is Beatrix, and just to share a little bit about myself, I graduated from Queen's University, and I went to school for teaching, and I'm currently a teacher. So I have worked in the Limestone District School Board, and I've also worked at an international school in Croatia, as well as currently I'm working in the York Region District School Board. And just some of the courses that I teach at Linky are these two courses over here that I have. And just to go into a little bit about my teaching and the strategies that I used to teach, I'm going to start off by talking about how my teaching is rooted in evidence-based instruction. So what this means is that I use strategies that are proven effective by scientific research over maybe some of the more traditional strategies that we have been using over time. And so this is particularly important for reading and writing because as you can see from this graphic here, a lot of the skills which are fundamental for a lot of the things that we do, not just within literacy, but because everything is so interconnected with literacy, whether you go to science or math, there's a lot of the times where you have to write, for example, lab reports, or you have to write papers when you get into higher level academia. And so we can see that there are multiple components of oral language, comprehension, as well as word recognition on this graphic, which shows what skills are necessary for becoming a skilled reader. And the reason why this is kind of represented as a rope is because it illustrates how all of these skills are interconnected and all of these strands need to be mastered in order for a student or any individual to be able to become a skilled reader. So how I apply this into my classes is I focus on meeting students at where they are at in this continuum. And depending on their skills, we practice things like word recognition through sight reading, as well as looking at the specific text that we focus on for the semester. It allows us to look at different language comprehension concepts during each class. So I will talk more about how I kind of implement it later on, but there's also a similar rope for writing as well. And so this is all information that's kind of pulled from recent research, especially because within schools, I'm sure all of the teachers here have probably seen as well that there is sort of a decline in certain skills, including spelling and reading, just because they found that the strategies that they have been using are not so effective. So we really have this new framework where it directs us to focus on the skills that are important, especially as they get into the older grades. So the student performance and achievement in writing, in order to master that, we can look at these strands which contribute to fluent skilled writing as shown in the graphic. And you can notice that instruction for the skills that support writing are very similar to the ones that support reading comprehension. So reading and writing isn't necessarily two separate topics that need to be covered, but we cover them hand in hand. So that they are improving these skills together. And to build these skills, we practice the writing process in the courses and to create different texts over the semester. So the way that this is done in the classes is normally I use a I do, we do, you do approach. So what this means is that I explicitly teach the students how to do it through the first step, which is just instruction, so showing them how it's done. And then we do a guided practice, which is doing it together to ensure that students are able to understand what they're supposed to do. And then finally, once they have mastered that, then I let them kind of go on independently and do an independent practice. And then for each different concept, we kind of repeat this kind of framework in order to help students master those concepts. One of the other things that you will see in my teaching is a lot of differentiation, because obviously every student is unique and we all come from different backgrounds, and some students will excel at certain things while certain students may need to improve in others. So it's really important that I adapt to all of these different needs, and how I do this is through something called the Universal Design for Learning. So what this means is I use multiple means of action, representation, and engagement. So what that means is for representation, it means that I'm giving students different ways to learn the content. So in a literature class, this may look like giving them options for reading a physical book or listening to the audiobook, so that when they are trying to dissect the book and dive into those concepts, they're not blocked by the fact that it may be harder to kind of comprehend when they're reading, but giving them those options so that they are able to better access all of the information that I give them. And then for multiple means of action, that would look like different kinds of assignments. So providing students with different options for how they can submit their work, which may look like presenting something orally, doing it through a visual presentation, or even something that's written. And obviously, depending on what we are working on, it may be the case where they may not have the option to choose, because, for example, if we're working on writing a story, it may be the case where I need to see that work and work with them on developing the skills for brainstorming or using a graphic organizer, things like that. But in terms of, for example, when they finally submit the story, I may give them the option of maybe recording it with the audio or writing it down, something like that. And then finally, for engagement, this may look like incorporating students' interests and hobbies, because I find that a lot of the time that students are way more engaged when they're able to incorporate things in their life and what they're interested in, and this really allows them to really be successful. And another way to ensure that lessons are tailored to students is asking something called low floor, high ceiling questions. So what that would look like is, skip over this. Oh, that didn't show properly. But so the idea is low floor, high ceiling questions means providing students of all backgrounds to be able to contribute, participate, and improve according to what level they're at. So for example, what this might look like is if I was doing something called a 6-word story challenge with my students. This would mean that they are creating a story using 6 words. And with this kind of prompt, it's really easy for students to create a story using 6 words. But when you really think about it, if you want to craft a really meaningful story, then you'll have to think very carefully about the word choice. And after you have your initial 6 words, it may be the case where you might decide to revise and edit in order to get a message across. So depending on the level of the students, all students will be able to contribute, and it kind of gives them more room for critical thinking as well. And then for my looking into the class, so the way I implement the theory that I've been talking about is through a more hands-on approach. So if you were to walk into my classroom, some of the things that you might see is first of all, co-creating expectations. So what this means is I'm actually working with the students to create a rubric or a success criteria so that students are more involved and they know exactly what I'm looking for. And it's actually been found that giving them more autonomy increases their engagement in the task as well, because they have a more clear understanding of what is expected of them. And then the next thing is real world applications. Literature can be used anywhere, and I really want students to see why they need to learn and practice these skills and how they use them in the real world. Next, we have gamification. So the mastery of concepts, a lot of the time, the skills that you saw in the reading and the writing rope, a lot of those skills require a lot of practice for mastery, and it can be very repetitive. So through gamification, it helps to keep students motivated so that they can continue to refine those skills. And lastly, I have student-centered learning. So this means that I allow students to participate and kind of do the learning instead of me just talking in front of them for 2 hours every class. So this may mean doing different activities. It can be group activities or independent activities where they kind of dive into the content themselves. And then after, we kind of do a consolidation where we look at some questions that can help them to really reflect on what they have done. And lastly, aside from all the teaching strategies, the most important thing is I really want to create a welcoming learning environment, encourage students to read for leisure, because when they develop the love of reading, they are more motivated to continue reading more and more. And naturally, this helps them develop those essential skills from the reading and the writing route that I mentioned before. And that's all I have. So I will give it back to you, Hannah.
Thank you, Beatrix. So let me quickly talk a bit on my side. Just really quickly, because we still have Matt right after me, and it's already 8:06. So really quickly, I might be speaking in bilingual, a bit of English, a bit of Chinese as well. I want to show you guys the course code we use in Ontario. So a lot of people don't understand how to use this course code. So the first three letters is basically the subject, right? So English normally is the ENG, and as you can see, starting with A is arts, B is business, and you figure that out yourself. And then the middle number is your grade, right? One represent grade 9, 2 represent grade 10, and then 3 grade 11, and 4 is grade 12. That's why we often see ENG for U is the English grade 12. And then the U, the letter U, represent university, which is the considered the highest level in terms of the course difficulties. And then the last number is normally a number to distinguish a course program. One is typically your own school, offered by your own school. I believe A is a AP, and there's some other letters like a D or Z could be. I think D it could be a summer school course. So you can find that out. All right. So I want to show you really quickly about the course selection from grade 9 through grade 12. As you can see for grade 9, these are basically all mandatory courses, and English was one of them. ENG 1W. 1, remember, I said 1 represent grade 9. And for grade 10, it's ENG 2D, right? 2 is grade 10. This is all mandatory. And in grade 11, grade 12, depending on the future major you're going to pursue. But you can see English is always mandatory, right? English 3U, this is a grade 11 course. English 4U is a grade 12 course. This is for engineering, the future engineering major. If you are going to do computer science, you can see English is also mandatory for both grade 11 and grade 12. What about business? Mandatory too, right? Science, same thing. Social science, arts, English is all mandatory. There are certain subjects you might be able to get away from, right? If you really want to study arts or social science, you might be able to get away from math or physics or chemistry, right? But there's no way you can get away from English. It's always mandatory, regardless what you're going to study for your future major. So this is I want to show you really quickly. This is a high school course requirement from Harvard. 那这个是哈佛大学的对高中选课的要求哈，所以它非常明确的是说，我需要4年的英语，然后 with extensive practice in writing， 所以他对写作特意把写作拿出来说。我们希望你有非常多的这种写作的练习写作的经验啊，除了4年的英语，那这个是哈佛大学的官网上，你们可以到它的，我下面有一个链接啊，你可以到它的官网上去看啊。那你比如说我们加拿大的滑铁卢的这个计算机啊，也是非常热门的一个专业，12年级的 这个英语啊，就是我们刚才说的 ENG for You，这个是即便你学计算机，这个也是首当其冲的，要被是 mandatory course，你必须要有啊。然后如果你想学医，那我们最热门的这个专业 McMaster 的 Health Science，英语也是我们讲 ENG for You 也是，然后包括像Western IB，他也在讲你要有这个12年级的英语啊，所以就是我在想跟大家讲，就是说英语它可能不简简单单是一个课程，它更多的是一个工具，它更多的是一个载体。即便你学数学，你学我们所谓的数理化，你也要通过英语学，而且有很多课程到了，尤其是到了11、12年级，学生们要写很多这种 paper，他要去 elaborate 他的整个的这种学习的解题的方法、解题的思路，其实这些都是通过英语来表达的。那我们也有很多例子，今天时间的关系，我没有办法完全把它展开讲。我们有很多例子，比如有同样的学生，同样的从一个这种比如说计算机专业毕业，那有的学生找工作就很容易，有的学生找工作就有一些这种挑战。其中一个很重要的原因，因为我们是做过这些跟踪的，如果他学过，就是他在英语方面，比如说 writing，比如你写简历就是 writing，你面试就是 speaking skills。所以，如果你有这些很强的这些 communication 刚刚 Matt 一开始讲英语 equals to communication 的话，你的这种将来的，比如说，不管你是大学申请还是将来的你的这种申请工作，都会我们叫事半功倍都很容易给你带来成功。相反，如果没有的话，即便是我们自己来做这个公司的这种 hiring manager，我们去找人，我们作为招生办的老师，如果你发现对方他的 communication 方面如果不是很强的话，实际上这个人可能你也要不一定那么倾向于去要用他或者把他招聘到你的校园里。所以这个是我很快。另外一个就是我想跟大家看一下我们的英语标准化，就是 Linky 在过去的2到3年的时间，我们花了大量的时间跟精力做这种curriculum standardization 就我们把我们的英语课程把它标准化了。所以我就随便给大家看几个我们的这个截屏了。在我们的整个英语 program 当中，我们分成3个大的板块。第一个大的板块是vocabulary， 然后这个里面呢，我们会用到的这个书是就是这本Wordywise 3000，非常有名的一本书。然后第二个大板块是 literature， 刚才我们几位老师也都讲到了 Beatrix 包括Janelle 讲到了。当然 literature 里面有一个很重要的一部分是 Shakespeare。有一位家长刚才问说，好像现在高中 no longer teach Shakespeare。首先，私校还是在这个在教莎士比亚，私立学校通通在教莎士比亚。公立学校呢，可能我们有一点点 confused 的是说，公立学校11年级改成叫 indigenous，就是我们所谓的原住民文学但是很多公校10年级跟12年级，它照样要教 Shakespeare。当然，有些学校的资源它可能这个老师可能没有能力教等等，有些公校可能少一点但是，就像刚刚 Matt 和 Janelle 讲的 ，Shakespeare 还是英语文学的这个 backstone， 就是它的真正的这个基石了就像我们中文一样，就是你学中文，如果你不学中国的这种文言文，基本上你很难去了解真正的中国文化。所以，假设你的学校真的是不教 Shakespeare， 那你更应该到像 Linky 这样的机构当中，你自己去要把这一课给它补上甚至你自学，你不一定非要来 Linky， 你自学都可以。但是这一课，我觉得对于你学习英语、学习整个的英语的这种语言的传承，我觉得是非常非常重要的所以，我们看我们的这个回到我们的这个英语的这个标准化大纲这个地方我们看到我们的9年级、10年级 我们每一个学期有16节课，我们每年有2个学期啊，秋季学期，然后现在我们马上开始春季学期，是从1月份1月底了，2月初到6月份，所以我们16节课，然后每一节课都有3个单元，刚才我讲到。Okay, I think that's pretty much it. 其他的我就时间的关系我就不再讲了哈。Matt, maybe I'll back to you. I think I'll stop here, and then we can take whatever questions after
Yeah.
you finish.
Yeah, okay, great. So if I get everybody either in chat or with the reaction feature, I don't know if you've used the reaction feature, it's at the bottom. You can make it say stuff like a thumbs up or a heart or something. If you could send a reaction if you have a kid in elementary school, because my portion of the presentation will not be concerning high school. We've talked a lot about high school. This is just going to be for the people in elementary school. So I'd like to just try to quickly gauge how many of you are staying for elementary school stuff to know how quickly I should move on, and we should just do Q&A. So if you do have someone in elementary school, grade 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, be sure to say something. Otherwise, I'll move through it pretty quickly. Okay. Thank you. Very good. All right. That's me, Matthew Thompson. I'm head of English here at LinkKey. I've been with LinkKey for a little over 8 years now. It's a fantastic place to teach, but we don't have time, so we're going to move on. So let's talk about this. Two prongs to what I'm doing today. First, we're going to talk about things that you can do to help your child, to help your student outside of our classes, outside of anything that we're looking to sign you up for right now. This is just something that I think is strong advice. These are the sorts of questions that I get almost every week now as a teacher, oftentimes just coming out of debate classes, not even coming out of the English classes. But I'll get questions about how do I keep my kid reading? How do I get my kid to read? And how can I convince my child to write? Because my child seems to hate writing. So let's start with reading. In order to help your child build a habit of reading, because it is very much a habit, generally we find people read less than they used to. People read less as they get older. The people who keep reading are the ones who were reading a lot when they were a kid. There are people like me who used to get in trouble with my parents because I was reading up late with a flashlight or something like that, right? The most important thing to do here is give them great books that they love. Take recommendations from other people. What are other kids reading? What are your friends reading? You can talk to teachers. We give recommendations all the time. But what you're looking for is something good that your kid actually likes. If they're not enjoying a book, don't force them to keep going on the book. It's okay to stop reading a book. I've stopped many books. You read a book, it goes a couple chapters, maybe it starts well. Call me Ishmael, this thing's going great. And then it's just 45 chapters of a couple guys on a boat looking for a whale, and it's just too much. And you don't have to. You don't have to keep going. Neither does your child. They can switch. They should be following their passion. A quick concept to hit you with here, because I don't want to, let's just get into it. Your kids are very heavily scheduled. Almost all of my students play multiple sports, play multiple instruments, speak multiple languages, and are in multiple extracurricular programs. Kids at any time are either gaining energy or losing energy, and they spend most of their day losing energy. They're learning, they're being productive, and that's good, but a lot of times by the time they get to my class at 7:15 on a Wednesday, they don't have a lot of energy. So how is it that I'm able to teach a class to a bunch of very tired children? Well, the important thing here is that what they're doing has to be enjoyable, has to be engaging, cannot be a chore. When you have your kid reading a book that they actually like, they're gaining energy, they're refueling, they're relaxing, they're resting, and they're learning. Their vocabulary is expanding, they get better at speaking, they get better at understanding complex ideas. A lot of parents will ask me, when is the correct time to switch from fiction to nonfiction? The answer is never. They should always be reading fiction. If they're interested in nonfiction, absolutely let them do that. That's the theme here, right? That they should continue to follow things that they're interested in. If they care about history, give them a history book. If they care about science, give them a book about a scientist. But at all times, you should be encouraging them to read. Books are not very expensive. A fun thing to do is to bring your kid to the bookstore and tell them they can buy whatever they want. Here I've got it, make it the only option. If you're taking a flight, if you're going on a road trip, there are certain times where your kid can either be on an iPad or be doing anything else with their brains. And the problem is, if the book is competing against a video game, the book will usually lose. So there are times, maybe the hour before bed, maybe when you're in the car driving to somewhere, there are times when you should make reading the only option. You can tell them, no, you can't have your phone, but you can bring as many books as you like. You can read as late as you like. You can read as much as you want. Reading should be fun and accessible. You should also be interested in what they're reading. A lot of these books will be books you haven't read before. Your kid can teach you these books. Your child can talk to you about Harry Potter. I wager most of you have children who have read Harry Potter, but I do wonder how many of you actually know the plot of Harry Potter. If you don't know what happens in Harry Potter, you should ask your kid about that. You should try to understand the stuff that they're learning, they're reading, because this is how they grow as a communicator and as a thinker. When you show an interest in something that they're already interested in, that brings it to a much higher level for them. Parents will come to me and say, can you tell my kid to do this or to do that? And I do, and I try to be the best education partner that I can be to you, but I do encourage you, when you see your child doing something that you think is good or constructive, praise that, be interested in that, interact with that. That brings us to writing. How can I help my child to write for fun? Remember, we want to build energy, build relaxation while we're doing something productive, while we're learning. Telling them to write about what they did this summer isn't going to get you there. They need to be writing something that they find interesting. I'm going to show you the technique I use to do this. You don't have to use my technique. But generally, if you want to help your child write, you should be following this idea. You need to encourage them to write something that they are actually interested in. They find that through a conversation. When you tell a young writer, write about anything you want, they write nothing. A blank page is an enemy to many writers. It is especially difficult for a young writer to deal with. Constraints can help them become more creative, but again, they need to be leading you. So when you're having a conversation with them, talk to them about a setting, talk to them about a character, talk to them about a theme. Do you want to write a story about time travel? That would probably be a mess. Do you want to write a story about dinosaurs? Do you want to write a story about Harry Potter, right? You can pick a character from the book that they're already active with. Choose something like that, give them some prompts, help them move in that direction, and then give them support. That's what I've got over here on the right side of your screen. Give them access to the tools, the time they need to pursue this pastime, whether it's beautiful notebooks, whether it's nice pens, whether it's a very expensive word processing software that they want to use, whatever it is, it's going to probably be much cheaper than other paths you might take, and it's probably going to be more effective anyway. Finally, when they show you something they have written, now is not the time to criticize them. We can talk about that when they get older. We can talk about ways to help them improve. But for the most part, you just are happy that they're doing it. Any effort that they're making, any progress that they're making towards writing needs to be supported. Ask them questions. If you read their story and it didn't make any sense, the way I respond to it is, oh, this is fantastic. I like this. I like that. I like this character. Why did they do this? Or what happens next? Why was that guy so angry? Why was that person a ghost, right? Ask them questions about the areas that don't make sense, because that's how they realize that there is something that needs to be fixed or needs to be improved. But if instead your response is, that didn't make any sense, that was silly, or this is too violent, kids tend to kill the characters that they write. I don't really know why. Kim's nodding. Yeah, I could see Claire doing it. Yeah, this is a thing that happens quite frequently. And when I was teaching people to write for like the SSAT, I had to make them stop doing that, because then you wouldn't get into UTS because they think you're crazy. But for the most part, they're not crazy. You know, they're writing a story about someone getting shot with arrows. They're not actually shooting somebody with arrows. You can ask them why they thought that was an interesting thing to do, and maybe we could come up with a more interesting thing to do to our character instead of 100% fatality by the end of every story. That has been a very interesting challenge for me in the class that I run, which is creative writing. Now, this is not Kim's creative writing competition class. This is a different class. I will show you the differences in this class. The creative writing class exists to build the writing muscle. Hamada and I have talked about this before with the way our classes work in concert. Hamada builds proficiency in writing, and my class is here to build passion for writing. Kids who leave my class build the writing muscle. They have more experience writing. They're able to write for longer. They're able to write with more depth. When they get to Hamada's class, grade 7, 8, 9, that's when we start to talk about refining details. In my class, we're not refining a lot of details. I will show you what we do though. Phase 1, we begin by creating a character. Every student in my class has their own character. We usually give them a lot of leeway to do this. I'll give them a setting. You know, right here it says world building, so maybe it's in space. So for example, if we've set the story in space and, you know, they tell me they want to be a dolphin, I do my best to put them as like a dolphin in a robot or something like that. But occasionally I have to say no. But for the most part, I do my best to let them create the character that they want to create. We then take those characters and we put them into a setting that is guided by me. I give their characters obstacles. I give their characters goals. And then I ask them how their characters would solve it. What this results in is your children feel like they're getting away with something because they spend the entire class with me having a lot of fun. There's a lot of laughter. Sometimes there's music. We play music to help ourselves write, to help ourselves get in the right zone. And occasionally kids will worry that if their parents hear them laughing so much, they won't take the class anymore because they'll assume we're not learning anything. But then the next section comes in. While they're laughing and enjoying themselves and writing sometimes a silly story, sometimes an exciting story, they always ask for a scary story, but sometimes it gets too scary. They're taking detailed notes. This is a crucial skill. Kids today are really bad at taking notes. They don't teach you this. They certainly don't teach you this in university. The professor just gets up there and starts talking. And if you don't know how to take quick, concise notes that you can personally understand, you struggle. You struggle very quickly. This is a great environment to learn note-taking because there's not a lot of pressure. If they take notes poorly, it means they have poor homework. It means they come back next week and they try again. Maybe they talk to their classmates, they learn what happened, they catch up on what happened. But generally, this is an area where I let them fail. I let them pick themselves back up. They build a little bit of resiliency here. They build a little bit of problem solving here. A lot of teachers hold kids' hands through absolutely everything. I think that does them a disservice. Here, I just let this be free form. You either got the note or you didn't. You either remembered the event or you did not. Then we move on to the actual writing. Students in my class typically start by writing 100 to 200 words a week. That might feel impossible, but watch them. And by the time they're done my semester, they're typically writing 400 words a week, sometimes more. I'm going to show you that in just a moment. They submit the work digitally. I give them time to go back and change things, improve things, because usually you find for the first 2 or 3 weeks, they're kind of learning it. They're not quite into it yet. They don't realize that they love it. And by about a month in, they realize they do love it, and they feel like they wish they'd worked a lot harder on a previous assignment. So I usually let them go back and clean some things up. Then at the end, I do some editing. This changes shape from semester to semester, depending on how much help the students need and how big the class is. Sometimes we do it one-on-one, sometimes we do it as a group, sometimes we do it through the classroom. I alter this based on what I think the class needs. But the end result is I clean it up. I do my best to sort of unify the way they present themselves while still preserving their individuality. And then I put everything together into a book. We build a digital book out of everything that they've written. I create some graphics, and then I post it for them on a website that I'm going to show you now. This is new. This is new. I know we've got a couple parents in here who have students in my creative class right now. We're working on that book right now. They've got their homework in. I'm very excited for it. And I'm finishing some graphics. So it will be joining this website hopefully by the end of the week. So let's have a look here. This is the creative collection. This is where I put every book that we've made in the 5 years I've been running this class. I started this class in the lockdown because I wanted something nice for kids to do because everything was kind of horrible. And I'm really happy that it's still running. So let's quickly have a look here. Here you can see the books displayed. It tells you when they published the book. Let's go with the one from the summer. This story was called Teeth Beneath. They wanted a horror story. I don't know if you can see my ad block pop up, but I'm going to go ahead and make that go away for us real quick. Excellent. Okay, so I hope it displays well for you. I have an ultra wide monitor, so it looks a little weird for me, but I hope it looks good to you. As we get down here, we can see the actual book that was submitted, and I'm scrolling through it by accident, but here we go. Here's our book. So we collaborated on the title, we collaborated on the graphics. And this website gives us a very nice way to display and take a look, and we can see our students right here. We can see their chapters. We give publishing credentials. They got really into doing like little copyrights and finicky stuff like this. And then we get in here. And as you can see, for example, Ray starts off fairly basic. He's named his character Jeremy. He's Jeremy years old. He likes Jeremy. A lot of kids take a little bit of time to buy in here, but some of them are right into it from the beginning, and they start working very hard very quickly. And we have students producing high quality pieces of writing. Now, this might not have been what Chloe did on day one. She might have gone back on this one. But this is a summer class, and I really want to stress this. This piece of writing was produced in 2 days. We had 3 classes per week. We ran for 3 straight weeks. So all of the writing that you're seeing here was written by someone in the 5th grade in about 2 days. And I couldn't be prouder of what they're able to produce. Because like I said, as soon as they start to actually write about something they care about, something that matters to them, something they take pride in, you would be shocked what they can produce. There were giant worms under the ground. Kim, it was the movie Tremors. That's what we were inspired by for Teeth Beneath. Let's see. This one's a magic school. We've got our Misfits of Narvard here. They liked that one. I found that clever.
Can I say something there? Sorry, Matt.
Yeah, go ahead.
You've just shared with us a true definition of empowerment. Kids in grade 5, producing a book like that. That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, we're really happy with it. So this is the creative writing class. In Markham, we run a version of this. It's called public speaking / creative writing. It emphasizes a little bit more of the improvisational aspect of the storytelling. And one thing that should really be stressed here is that all of these pieces of writing, they're all talking about the same session, right? So this is just session 1. This is them arriving at the school. So each student is talking about their character, or they're talking about what they interacted with, or they're talking about what they saw. Hey, look, there's Joy right there. And so they all arrived in slightly different places or at slightly different times, but the characters are all observing the same event. So in this section here, a great darkness attacked the school while they were being delivered there on a cart, and they saw these flashing bolts of light through the sky as their 3 teachers arrived and magically fought off the darkness. That might be an author self-insert, I don't know. But throughout this section, we had different students interpreting it in different ways. For example, Paris is screaming. And you'll get descriptions like another girl dashed up to Joy. Well, if you didn't do your homework, your character's exploits might be another girl. The first semester I ever ran this, we had a boy named Snow who, we use dice occasionally when they're doing something dangerous. So I can't just say, oh, no, sorry, the dragon killed you. We roll dice, and then it's a 1, and then the dragon kills you. So it makes it a little bit more fair and gives me a bit more agency in the classroom. But Snow does incredibly well. He kills the monster. He doesn't do his homework. And Jaden writes a homework assignment that says, I killed the monster. And that's what's in the book. And that's just what it says. And it's really interesting because we don't have a lot of discipline mechanisms here, right? Like we can write a bad report card. We can tell your parents that you didn't do your work. But something like this, when something like this gets produced, when these kids wrote 150 pages, right? When something like this gets produced and you're just not in it and other people are sort of telling your story, that's a really strong piece of self-motivation. that brings me back up to the first point that I was making here, right? It has to be their choice. They have to be pursuing something that they're interested in. Because if you just keep pushing them into things that they don't like, you don't get the same results. Okay, I've taken up a lot of your time. So that's it for me. We're ready to answer questions. I think we've got a couple down in chat. And outside of that, anybody who wants to put them in now can go right ahead. I'll turn it back to Henry.
Okay, thank you so much, Matt. So let's get to the Q&A, and if you have any questions, feel free to type the question in the chat, or maybe turn on your microphone and you can simply to talk, to speak. Either English 或者中文都可以哈。就如果你有问题的话，你可以问，好吗？用英文问，用中文问都可以。我可以帮大家做这个 translation. So there, I can see there is a question from GZ. May I ask how many levels of creative writing classes Mrs. Sparks will be offering? Will there be any assessment to help place students in the most appropriate level? So, Ms. Spark, it seems that a lot of parents or students are interested in your upcoming creative writing class. So we are working on to finalize the schedule. So we'll let you know. So please, try to pay attention to our portal website. Hopefully by the end of next week, we will be able to put all the schedule on the portal website. The creative writing class, I can tell you right now, the creative writing classes taught by Ms. Sparks will most likely to start right after the family long weekend, which is, I think the first class should be around February 21st or 22nd. Okay. And 对，就是Kim 老师的这个，大家好像对他的 creative writing 的班都很感兴趣啊，就是刚才我们讲学会怎么去写故事、讲故事。那这个班，我们应该在下个星期会把它放在我们的 portal 上，然后大家可以报名。这个班的开课时间是在2月份的长周末之后啊，应该是在21号、22号附近，会开始，好吧 ？All right. Any other questions?
There was a question earlier. So we had a question about class size, which you answered as 5 to 8. And
for
yes,
that writing class, yes.
Yeah, and that's an important thing to mention for our English classes. A 12-person English class would be a big English class. It would be one of our biggest ones. I think Beatrice, we had you co-teaching an English class because it was so big that we're like, 12 kids. Oh my God. So we had to get a second teacher in there because it's just very important that we're giving individualized feedback to students based on their papers, right? Especially if we're going to ask them to put in all the time to write it, like, yeah, we're going to read it. We're going to talk to you about it. We do our best to get written feedback out. We do verbal feedback. Sometimes we do co-editing sessions. We were just doing those last week. Those are quite productive. The document goes up on Google Docs, and then the teacher works alongside the student. What's also important to note, in our school, the final grade that you get from your paper is more flexible than what your students will get at a normal high school. So typically in high school, you submit a paper, they say you got a B, and then you move on with your life. We have papers due before the end of class. You submit the paper, we tell you what you would have gotten, and we recommend some changes. And then you go and you make the changes. We act as though we're your editor, right? Your writing partner. We give you that last check. You make those changes, you see the improvement in your paper. Ultimately, I don't really care what grade we give the kid. Like, it's somewhat useful, but mostly it's about improving their writing ability. So sending them home with a C is not really valuable to me. I want to work with them and show them why they got a C and what they could do to get a better mark. And then when they put that mark in, or they put that work in, the mark improves. That's how we always like to do it. We had a question as well about creative writing, about when that started, I think. I feel like okay. When will the creative writing be offered, example, spring semester, at which Link Key campuses? So that came in from
I answered
Jessica.
that one. I answered that one.
Okay, great. Okay,
All right,
good.
so yeah, any maybe final words to share, teachers, before we wrap this up?
I had a private message question about trial classes. Could you just speak on trial classes for a minute?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest way to do this is go on the Linky website, linky.com, and go to our policy. You can see, our trial policy. So we do offer trial classes. All you need to do is go get to the Linky website, and you can register as a trial. Okay, so you register as a trial, and then you can come based on the class schedule. It's fairly easy, fairly straightforward.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're not sure it's for you, then come by. You can trial anything for free. I mean, it costs you an afternoon. But aside from that, yeah, I would say if you're on the fence, then that's the right path. Like, give it that shot. The teacher will talk to you for a few minutes after class, and you can come and have a look and see if this is the right thing for your kid. Because we're not trying to put you in a class that's not for you. That's not good for anybody. So we really do want to make sure that we get the right fit. That's why we have so many different classes. We got a lot of different offerings. Okay, unless anybody else wanted to jump in, just for me, thank you so much, everybody, for showing up. We really appreciate your time. You guys stayed long to listen to me. I also appreciate that. So thank you all. Thank you all very much.
All right. Any final words? No? Okay, we're good. Thank you so much. Thank you for parents, students as well. If you have further questions, feel free to reach out, emails, phone calls, text messages, WeChats, whatever. And we're always there. So don't forget, our spring semester starts this coming weekend. So I'll see you all and across all 3 campuses. Thank you and have a good night.